Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Jess. So just over the last 24 hours, Bitcoin has absolutely brutalized the market, dropping below $60,000, and just as things were starting to look seriously bullish. So the crash really came out of nowhere and spiked long liquidations across the entire crypto market. And now the big question is, what is next for Bitcoin? So let's dive into the charts today to try and answer that question by breaking down the recent price action and what it means across the short time frame, daily, and higher time frame charts. Before we get into all that though, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. If you're after even more content, be sure to check out my free Telegram channel for daily updates as well as crypto and economic news. And if you're interested in my VIP channel, you can get more details over here. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty guys, so let's start off by diving into the charts and talking about what on earth has happened in the last 48 to 24 hours before we dive into our analysis. So as we all know, or as most of you guys will know, moving into the last week of price action, things were looking really bullish. We had established a really strong short time frame uptrend, and we had on Friday, or Friday for those of you guys in America, Saturday for us in Australia, we'd finally broken above this massive level of resistance here that we had kind of been sideways consolidating within for the last, extended period of time. I want to say that it's maybe like a 10-day period over here that we were just kind of chopping sideways while holding above this uptrend. Finally, though, we did break above that upper level of resistance to tap this next level over here at $64,000. Now, over here, we were expecting a little bit of a correction if you guys watched my last video, and that was just because we had a fair amount of developing bearish divergence and weakness over here, especially as we were approaching, that middle of the week after a massive rally. So we saw a little bit of that crash initially, right? This kind of healthy correction there to retest the midline as a base of support. And now this is when things started to get a little bit crazy. So we had a massive liquidation event over here. If we take a look at CoinGlass, for example, and scroll down to Bitcoin liquidations, we can see we had pretty much the largest liquidation event we've had since the 5th of August, which was all the way back when Bitcoin crashed down to $49,000. So it was a massive day, the crypto, and it wasn't immediately apparent why this happened. It was really random and really unexpected, to be honest. But from what I've been able to see on Twitter and just the crypto space in general, I'm pretty sure that it was just very large firms kind of stop loss hunting each other, which was really great for us retail people. It was essentially like having the two Greek gods like Zeus and Poseidon like warring with each other. The sky and the oceans are warring and the mortals are dying. So essentially that's what happened. So a lot of retail got liquidated in the process as well. And we saw the market crash below this really critical level here at that midline and fall into the next range of short time frame support at the base of that prior channel of horizontal consolidation, or that chop zone down here to $57,800. So naturally, this really big drop is a little bit of a cause for concern because it places us once again within that chop zone now, right? So it's a little bit less clear where exactly Bitcoin is going to go, and that really high probability that we had breaking above this level here to see that range high retest is now a little bit more challenged because we are a fair bit below that level here, and once again we're below this level of resistance. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into our analysis now and talk about, I guess, the probabilities based on what the short time frame and the high time frame charts are telling us for either a range high retest or a continuous bullish movement, or a range low retest down here at $53,000. Before we do though, let's just hear a quick word from our sponsor, Bitunix, where you can get 15% off all of your trading fees and up to $5,500 in sign-up rewards by creating your free account using the link down in my description box. Bitunix is an emerging cryptocurrency exchange committed to providing you with a secure, convenient, and highly functional trading and investment platform. Available across all countries as a non-KYC exchange, get global access to over 150 trading pairs with minimal fees on both spot and futures contracts. Join today to get $5,500 in sign-up rewards and get 15% off all of your trading fees by signing up using the link in my bio or by using the code 1GG3 when you create your account. So sticking to the short time frame charts just for the first little segment of this video. So we know, okay, we've lost our uptrend, right? So previously when we were in this sort of sideways consolidation where we had, that upper level of resistance and that lower level of support down here, we had our uptrend, that structural level that was giving us some sort of general trajectory of where we should kind of expect Bitcoin to go on the short time frame, and that was very clearly up right above the uptrend, trying to see for until it ends. And so we were expecting that bullish continuation, especially in this little segment over here, as we were gaining strength against that sell wall here at that $61,000 region, right? So we saw that very bullish sort of pattern structure developing there, and that was a really good sign. So we were really sure moving into this period here that we were going to get a bullish continuation. However, now that we have lost our uptrend and we've fallen back below that upper level of resistance here at 61,800, it's a little bit more neutral now. We're not exactly 100% sure, at least on the short time frame charts, which exact scenario is going to be more likely, right? So let's just go ahead and mark out that scenario. So let's get rid of our short time frame chart, short time frame uptrend, and pull up this parallel channel that we are back within. Bitcoin is falling back within right now to mark out, I guess, our key levels of significance. So within this parallel channel, we can't really expect anything of too much interest happening, right? Bitcoin's just going to continue to chop sideways until we manage to either break above this upper level of resistance here, facilitating a short time frame bullish continuation into this next level at $64,000, where a break above buy side liquidity here at $65,000, that black line or the top of those 2 wicks there, will then facilitate another bullish continuation, and we enter the bullish territory where we can expect a range high retest. Alternatively, if we get a break below this level over here, this level of support, as well as its own sell side liquidity point, that's corresponding point of liquidity, we pull up the horizontal ray, we can just mark that out at $56,050. Closing below there, we enter the bearish territory, and that is when we can more confidently expect a move down to test this next level of support here and, the range low around $53,000. But taking a look at that on the short time frame, sure, now we've marked out our key significant levels and we know what, I guess, the key markers are moving forward in the short time frame price action. This doesn't really tell us anything in terms of probability, right? It's not really giving us any sort of indication about which scenario is more likely. So to do that, what we need to look at is the higher time frame charts, right? What has happened upon this breakout of that midline? What kind of significance do these levels here hold in terms of the high time frame charts? And leading on from that, which scenario is more likely? So let's go ahead and start off by talking about the daily chart and what it tells us about this recent price action and that loss of the midline here. So moving into the daily chart, now taking a look at, the recent price action objectively and at face value, the loss of this midline is naturally not a good thing, right? The entire time we have been, or for the most part of the time that we have been within this massive channel of consolidation, what we've been looking for is a break above these midline here, because, generally after doing so on a daily chart, we have a very high probability then of getting a range high retest. We've seen it time and time again. It has been and continues to be a very strong dynamic level of resistance and support. And alternatively, falling below the midline, we've generally seen a super high probability, or falling below and rejecting of the midline, we've seen a very high probability of then a range low retest, right? Again, we've seen that multiple times within this channel of consolidation. So naturally, moving into this segment here where we've broken below the midline, that prior high probability that we had of getting that range high retest is now somewhat diminished, right? Because, we haven't gotten that full move that we were kind of expecting moving in here. But I do want to say that not all hope is lost, because like I try to say in most of my videos, I think using just one level of resistance or one indicator or one thing to kind of map out the entire trajectory of what the price is going to look like isn't always going to be effective. We kind of have to try and take in as much context and as much information as we can to try and understand where the price is going and, what the charts are actually telling us. Because there's a lot of information here, not just this one level of resistance. So let's go ahead and take a look at this 2 specific scenarios that I wanted to show you guys. So over here, if we take a look at this little segment of price action, we can see we had a period here where Bitcoin actually broke above the midline, had an unsustained break into that range high, and then falling back below the midline, we had an unsustained move to the range low before finally gathering enough strength, bouncing on that midline there, and moving it forward into that range high. So why did that happen in comparison to what happened over here, where we had a unsustained break above the midline? we had a fall below, and then we had a full move to the range low instead. What was the differentiating factor between these two periods where we saw eventually a range high retest in comparison to a failed breakout, right? And a full-on breakdown into that range low. So from what we can see, if we kind of divide up these two periods of price action, is that moving into this segment over here, we were actually in an uptrend. So structurally speaking, while Bitcoin had broken down from this key level of support, resistance, key level of significance, that trigger point there, we still had support there, both structurally, and if we take a look at, what would have been the short time frame charts for that period, we had a little level of support here horizontally as well, right? So the short time frame charts were developing in a way that suggested that the price should have bounced here and gone upwards, which it did, right? We went back upwards upon bouncing upon the structural support once again, continually facilitating that bullish continuation. We finally had a move up to that range high. Now, oppose that to what we saw over here. We had the range high retest, and then after developing a really strong downtrend over here, let's just map that out properly. Am I doing that right? No, it's over here. Sorry, guys. So after falling from that range high retest and then creating a shorter time frame downtrend over here, what we ended up seeing was a fall below the midline, right? An unsustained move at first. And then after a continued rejection from that descending trend line, right? That downtrending resistance, that is when we fell back below the midline once again, rejected from it as a level of resistance as well as the structural pattern, and then saw a range low retest. So it's not the midline on its own, but it's the midline in the context of the structure that Bitcoin is traveling in that period of time. So if we take a look at what Bitcoin's doing right now, okay, we know, yes, we've fallen below the midline. That's obviously not great. So we might see a little bit more chop as we noted on the consolidation zone on the shorter time frame charts before we get that range high retest. But structurally, as of right now, Bitcoin is actually in an uptrend, right? If we map out those lower lows of higher lows over here, we can see that so far the charts are still developing in a way that suggests a bullish continuation on these higher time frames. So as long as we continue to hold this uptrend over here and Bitcoin is able to continue to try and break above that midline level and we establish these higher highs here on the charts, we have a probability then, a higher probability then of seeing that range high retest after a more extended period of consolidation compared to a range low retest where we would have to break below our structural support over here. And we also know that as of right now on the short time frame, we are at support the same way we were at support in this little segment over here, and where we finally facilitated a bounce and a bullish continuation. So overall, guys, while at face value, we have had a little bit of that diminished probability and, we are less aggressively bullish right now, overall, these daily charts are suggesting still a bullish continuation and a high probability of this range high retest. Now, before we wrap up this video, there is one more chart that I want to talk about, and it is a 3-day chart with the Gaussian Channel. So I've spoken about the Gaussian Channel a couple of times in my channel, and most of you guys probably know what it is. It's a pretty common indicator, but if you don't, Gaussian Channel, essentially, most basically, above the Gaussian Channel, we're bullish. Below the Gaussian Channel, we are generally bearish. It is a latent indicator that tells us, it gives us confirmation of the macro trajectory of Bitcoin, right? And usually within that Gaussian channel, depending on the structural patterns that we have, we can be either bullish or bearish. It really does depend on the structure. So right now, we can see that the way our main key structure, the high time frame descending channel that we have, and our Gaussian channel, it sits, together. We can see that if we were to get a range low retest at this point in time, if we were to lose our uptrend here and fall below that bearish trigger point of $56,050 and enter that range low retest region, what we'd also end up doing is actually falling below the Gaussian channel on the 3-day chart, guys. So the reason why I'm adding that to this sort of analysis is because if we think about the economic climate that we're in right now in terms of whether or not we enter a sort of high time frame bullish trajectory compared to a bearish trajectory, everything that we have sort of leading up to this, isn't really suggestive that we should be entering a high time frame bearish trajectory, which we would be if we actually got a range low retest at this time, right? The way that the charts have laid out this time, if we did get a range low retest, we would genuinely fall below the Gaussian channel and confirm the entrance or the start of a high time frame bullish trajectory. And if we consider the fact that it's August right now, we have September coming up where we are guaranteed to get rate cuts, the cost of debt's about to be a lot cheaper, hopefully. And, you know, things are kind of lining up to be bullish. China, there is speculation. China might be unbanning Bitcoin, which generally happens every single time we're about to enter a high time frame macro bullish trajectory. If we can take into consideration all those sort of like macro figures that or macro information that we have, you know, Bitcoin isn't really positioned in a way that should lead to a high time frame bearish trajectory, which makes this entire scenario of losing that Gaussian channel and getting that range low retest in comparison to a range high much lower. It also means then that if we do end up seeing that range low retest here, we have very, very strong confirmation that Bitcoin is then entering a high time frame bearish trajectory, and we are very unlikely then to somehow recover and see a range high retest after all of that, right? Something will definitely have to happen in terms of a large economic shift to facilitate, you know, that move back upwards after falling below the base of the Gaussian channel on a 3-day chart. So it kind of tells us that this next segment of price action here, you know, is actually has very, very significant implications in terms of our decision making moving forward for Bitcoin. Alrighty guys, that is all the analysis that I have for you today. If you enjoyed the video or you learned something, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're after even more content, be sure to check out my free Telegram for daily updates as well as crypto and economic news. And if you're interested in my VIP channel, you can get more details over here. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. And if you are a trader, don't forget to sign up down below to Bitunix to get 15% off all of your trading fees and up to $5,500 US in sign-up rewards. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.